to my YouTube, and sorry for the slight absence. A lot has been going on in the world of George's Cakes. All good, including this new kitchen. So this is going to be a little test because I want to do more YouTube videos for you. So I'm going to do them here. So I'd love to know what you think. So write in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe and share with all your friends. Now this video is one of my most requested videos. It's how to stack a wedding cake or a tiered cake. It's actually a lot more difficult than you think. It's not just about stacking cake on cake on cake, because it will obviously collapse. And here's a clue of what the video is going to be about. So let's get started. So what you're going to need is a drill. Okay, you don't actually have to have a drill, and young ones, be careful, but we're basically going to be drilling a hole through a cake board. So you can kind of dig in with scissors, but it's just easier to do it with a drill. So what I've done is I'm going to use an 8-inch cake board, and this is for an 8-inch cake. So usually you go for a slightly bigger cake board for the cake to sit on, but we want it the same size because when we stack it, we don't want to see any cake board. So I've got a piece of paper here that I've cut out, and I need to find the center of it. So like my lining tin trick, I'm going to fold it into sections. And I'm going to cut just the very top of the cone. And when I open it out, I get the center. And that is what I'm going to line up the cake board with. I'm just going to mark it. I did say not to ruin your scissors, but this is how I do it. So look, I've actually marked the center of the cake board. Now the reason why we want a hole in the middle is because we're going to put a wooden dowel through the whole cake. You can buy these online or in cake specialist shops, but they are basically going to hold the cake up so it doesn't go anywhere, especially if you're traveling with it and you don't want it to do that. So we basically want the hole to be as big as the dowel, which is why I have the drill. So just get a container, a bowl, or something like a jam jar, and place this over the top. And now the fun part. Line the drill up and just drill through. So as you can see, it's gone completely through the cake board. Now that's not big enough for the wooden rod. So I'm going to make it slightly bigger. I'm just going to go up and down a bit with the drill first. And then I'm actually going to use the scissors. Kind of just open up the hole a bit more. So while it's centered on the board, you want the hole slightly bigger than the rod. Just checking that it does go through. Yeah. And there's a bit of space as well. Reason being is because as accurate as we wish we all are, it might be slightly out of line. So it's better to have a slightly bigger hole for when we stack it up. So I'm just going to neaten up the board by cutting off this excess. And don't forget the other side as well, especially because this is going to be sitting on another cake. And there we go. So nice hole in the middle of the cake board. So now we can put our drill aside, but you want to keep this for a later stage, and I'll show you why. And now you're actually going to use this to build up the cake. So we want to put it on a larger cake board like we usually do, and I'm going to flip it upside down. And now I'm just going to put some double-sided tape around the bottom. I don't actually have any double-sided, so I'm going to loop it round and just stick it like this. So it doesn't actually have to be too neat, it just has to have enough sellotape on for it to stick on the cake board, like this. Just press it down, so it's nice and stuck, and now you can build up your cake. So remember, this top cake board is the same size as your cake, so which actually makes things easier because when you scrape around, you hit the cake board and you actually get a really nice size. So there's a little trick if you want to try that anyway. So I've got one prepared. So again, this cake was built on top of the cake board. Let me just show you. It's the same size. And the idea is that we're going to lift this off and it will be on its own cake board. So I think it's time for the stacking part. Okay, now it's time to stack the cake. I've got a 10-inch cake, an 8-inch and a 6-inch. If you haven't already, head to this banner and go and watch my sponge cake tutorial. They're all the same sponge. It does make a 6-inch, but if you want an 8-inch, double it, and if you want a 10-inch, triple it, and cook it in 2 pans. It is the most simple recipe and just works perfectly. So each of these are on its own sized cake board, including the base, because when I get to a venue and deliver the cake, I slide it off, and you don't want bare cake on the cake stand. So even the 10-inch has an extra board underneath. I also put large cakes on a cake drum, just because when you're transporting a tiered cake, the very thin cake cards are too thin and they'll start bending. So let's get stacking. What you'll need for this is the wooden dowel, which I was talking about before, which is going to go through the center of the cake. And then smaller dowels, but I actually use jumbo straws. Now, it's a cheaper option, but they're just as good. You're not going to use this tool, but I'll just show you. We will cut them, and they are very strong. And it's these which are essentially supporting the other tiers. Now, just a warning, make sure your cakes are cold, because it will just make your life so much easier. These have been in the fridge for a few hours. They are pretty solid. Even put them in the freezer if you've got space. Not for too long, but the last thing you want is buttercream all over your hands, which you're kind of gonna get anyway. It just makes things a little easier. So I'm going to get my circle from before and actually put it on top of the 10-inch and try and find the center. And once you're happy with that, you make a hole with the wooden rod. And now I'm just going to lift the paper back off. I'm just going to go around double checking that is the center by lining the rod up and roughly measuring. Yeah, that's pretty central. So now I'm going to put the wooden rod through the whole cake. Okay, now I'm going to go round the wooden rod with about 5 or 6 straws, again just to enhance the strength of the structure. So I'm going to place the straw in the cake. And I'm going to give it a little wiggle just so a little bit of buttercream touches. So when I pull it out, I can see where the buttercream is, and then I can trim it to exactly there. Push it back down, and I'm going to repeat it another 5 times. Okay, so I've chosen to do 6 straws. I would suggest 5 or 6 if you're doing a 10-inch cake, and then it obviously reduces the smaller the cake is. So now it's time to put the 8-inch on top. And just before I do that, I'm going to put a little bit of buttercream just so the cake can stick. So here's the scary moment. I'm going to use a palette knife and take off the cake. So I'm holding it from the cake board underneath. And the sellotape may stick to the cake board, so just feel around and take it off. And now I place it on top of the cake. So find the center, slowly lower it. And the stick will come out of the top. So just clean that off. And just double check that you're happy with it, that it's nice and straight. Now, as you can actually see, there's quite a big gap underneath. And I'm going to fill that with a little bit of buttercream. Again, it's 10 times easier if the cake is cold, so the outer layer doesn't smudge with this. Very slight filling. and then I'm going to neaten it up with a palette knife. And I'm going to go round with a side scraper. I must admit, naked cakes are a lot easier and more forgiving. It doesn't matter if you scrape a bit of buttercream away and reveal some sponge. Okay, so now it's time for more straws before we add the second layer. And a little bit more buttercream. And now I'm going to put the cake on top. So same again. Place on the top. You can even press it down slightly. So I'm just going to fill the base with a bit more buttercream just to fill in that gap again. And scrape it smooth. So there we have it, my stacked wedding cake or celebration cake. Just remember that each tier is on its own cake board with a wooden dowel inside and straws supporting it too. Just remember that when you're traveling with a tiered cake, make sure it's on a thick board like this, and you don't really want to go taller than this. I may put a 4-inch on top, but I also decorate it at the venue. It just saves the worry. Also, if you are delivering a wedding cake, just make sure that the caterers know that there are all these straws inside, because it'll be a little bit of a surprise if they don't know, but they usually do. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave your comments below and let me know what you think of the new video format as well. Subscribe, like and share the video, and follow me on Instagram if you don't already. It's @GeorgesCakes. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you soon.